Live from the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington, the UFO, Bigfoot, and paranormal hotspot of the Pacific Northwest. Directly to you listening in around the world. This, my friend, is Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, occupying the captain's chair tonight for SOR headquarters. Welcome to tonight's show, and including all of our listeners on the digital side at Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always find our archive shows for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at the Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight's special guest for Spaced Out Sunday, along with myself, is Mr. Alex Mistretti. He is a full-time paranormal researcher, and we're going to talk about UFOs and ghosts and cryptids and all sorts of interesting paranormal history that I think you're really going to enjoy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. And before we get started, also, we are going to bring our good old buddy Peter Davenport in from the National UFO Reporting Center. And we are going to get some sighting reports of what's going on here within the last few days and weeks, etc. So, Peter, are you there?
I am here.
Wonderful.
Audio, Michael. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. Just keep close to that microphone there on the phone. And Alex, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is going to be a fun show tonight. It's always nice when I have professionals like Alex Mistretti and Peter Davenport on at the same time on a Sunday evening here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm out here in the Seattle area. I know you're down in the LA basin, Alex, and Peter is in eastern Washington, out there in the lovely farm wheat fields of eastern Washington. So, Peter, how have you been since last week?
I've been busier than all get out, Michael, and thank you for asking. I don't know what it is that has caused the surge of reports over recent months, but we might be able to ascribe it to my appearances on Spaced Out Radio. Who knows?
Oh, well, thank you for that. Isn't that a nice compliment? But you know what? I think we have some interest definitely picking up each week. When you come on our show, we have a giant spike at the beginning of our listenership because you are on with these new sighting reports that happen literally around the world and, of course, across the United States. So, yeah, it's kind of fun to think that people are paying attention out there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm delighted to hear that. I hope it's bringing listenership to the program. And I hope all those people out in our audience, if they see a UFO, will consider reporting it to the National UFO Reporting Center. And because we have another guest from MUFON, I should extend the courtesy to him and say we hope you report it to MUFON as well, the Mutual UFO Network.
Yeah, both you and Alex have been involved for decades with MUFON, so. Yeah, we need to bolster that community, that organization at this time for sure. So first of all, let's do this, Peter. Let's at the top of the hour now give out those contact phone numbers to the National UFO Reporting Center and the hotline. We always wait till the end when I think people might not have something to write with, but we will do it at the beginning and the end of your segment here. The top and the bottom of the hour. So go ahead and give them their hotline phone numbers.
Thank you for allowing that, Michael. The National UFO Reporting Center UFO hotline has been the same for 46 years. It's area code 206 722-3000. That number again is 206-722-3000, and it's usually manned from 8 in the morning to midnight. So there's a good chance, but no guarantee, that you'll get me on the telephone. And we invariably ask people to follow up a telephone call with a written report. I always make the point that an oral report...
Oh, we lost him there. I think he's still on the line. We'll just see if he can... I don't know if you can hear me, Peter, but your audio just cut out, so see if you can get us back on. If not, I will call him back. Let's see here. Yeah, we're still on the phone with Peter. Hang on. Oh, I see. I got him flipped off the Bluetooth communicator speaker, so let's see if I can get him back on there. Okay, Peter. Are you...
1, 2, 3.
There you go. Okay, what happened was, that was my fault, Peter. The Bluetooth speaker that I use to try to bolster your voice just kicked you off for a second there. So probably the last minute or so we cut you off. So go ahead and restate what you wanted to state.
Okay. Thanks. The National UFO Reporting Center hotline, telephone hotline, is area code 206-722-3000. 206-722-3000. And our website for follow-up written reports, which we invariably request and ask for from witnesses, is ufocenter.com. ufocenter.com.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you for allowing that, Michael.
Well, of course, yes. And you don't necessarily... you want to have all sorts of reports. Even if it's not a new report, if it's a historical sighting, you'd like to see those too, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I usually take the position that it does not matter whether a UFO sighting occurred 8 minutes ago or 8 decades ago or 8 centuries ago. We would like to have it in our database, and I encourage people to submit written reports for sightings in the distant past.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you've ever been to Peter's website, Alex, lately, but I tell you what, it's always amazingly up to date. You can go there and punch in your own neck of the woods, your own city, your own town, and it will tell you by sighting of dates and even the type of sighting reports will be listed there too. So it's a heck of a resource. So, but yeah, I'm excited, Peter, for you to get us up to speed on these new reports that you were mentioning off the air. Go ahead.
As I mentioned, I've had a lot of reports submitted recently over the last several months. And in fact, I think it was April, we had 1,700 reports. I'm going on memory now.
Oh, my.
Usually, a typical month, we will have somewhere between 250 and 500 reports. So that gives our listeners some idea of how busy the hotline has been. But let me kick it off with a report from this past Monday, the 13th of July, Monday night in Wrentham, Massachusetts, which is a little city southwest of Boston, about 40 miles or so, straight north of Providence, Rhode Island, right on the Massachusetts and Rhode Island border. 2 witnesses report that they were outside at 6:45 p.m. on the 13th of July, and their attention was drawn to an object overhead, and it turned out to be an aircraft with a contrail. But as they watched it pass overhead, their attention was also drawn to an object, a slender, tubular-shaped object that was going exactly the opposite direction of the airliner. And distance is very, very difficult or even impossible to determine, but their impression, the visual impression they had, was that the tubular object passed very close to the airliner. It may even have obscured it. It was clearly below the airliner, they reported. Well, ordinarily under this kind of circumstance, Michael, I would ascribe the sighting to probably two airliners passing one another.
Yeah.
Except for the following fact. They assert that as they watched the tubular object coursing to the north, the airliner was going south. They witnessed the object execute a 180-degree turn in a matter of a few seconds. Impossible for an airliner to do. And then head south following the airliner. A very, very interesting, sobering report if these facts are accurate.
Oh my, I don't fly that often, but when I do, I am always literally looking out the window, wondering if I'm going to see something like that. Can you imagine, Alex? You're sitting there going to Phoenix or whatever, and all of a sudden you look out your window and there's some object streaking by you that you probably can't understand.
I have, and I've seen something like that, believe it or not, one time.
Are you serious? Tell us about that.
In fact, I was coming back from Vancouver.
Yeah?
I was out of Vancouver doing some research on local sea monster, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Caddy, they call it out there.
Right.
Complete serendipity, wasn't thinking about UFOs or anything, and I'm on the flight, and I do the same thing you do. Always look out the window just in case.
Yeah.
I've been doing it my entire life, And at one time, all I see is this round ball. And it wasn't even that far. It had to be maybe a couple 100 to 300 feet, maybe.
Oh.
From the plane. Obviously, it's hard to tell distance,
Yeah.
But it was just completely round, a little bit brown, which kind of surprised me. And it was just trailing the plane until at some point it kind of disappeared. I stopped, some clouds and got in the clouds, and I kind of lost track of it. And at the time, I was with my ex-girlfriend, and I was trying to convince her that UFOs were real, and she was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Maybe one day I'd go to one of your meetings, whatever, And so I turned around and poking at her, and that's when I turned back around, and the thing was gone. But I got a good view for about, 10 to 15 seconds. It was a quality sighting.
Yeah, sounds like it. Did you hear that, Peter?
I could hear some of it, yeah.
Yeah, Alex saw a bit, was it a sphere?
A sphere, yeah, completely spherical, yeah.
Brown sphere, following his commercial flight. Did you actually get your girlfriend to see it, or did
No, she was sleeping.
That's the way it goes. Oh,
right?
Man.
It's like a movie.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating, Peter. 180-degree turn.
Yeah.
And then it follows the airliner. Oh, I wonder if anybody aboard that airliner saw anything.
Well, I don't know. And she doesn't say where it was located relative to the airliner, so if it was directly behind the airliner, of course, they wouldn't have been able to see it from the cabin or the cockpit.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting report. Part of the report I didn't include is that they looked at the object through binoculars.
Oh.
And they got a very good eyeball on it. And she points out that the sky was very clear and there was no sound coming from the object whatsoever, although they could hear the airliner that was ahead of the tubular-shaped object. I've had a lot of reports like this, actually.
You wonder if it's just a tourist flight from Venus, Checking them out. Oh, by the way, folks, if you look out your left-hand side of the window, you'll see a commercial airliner from the local airport. Oh, that's amazing stuff.
This is reminiscent of some reports I've had in the past decades, actually. There was an incident that occurred, I can tell you in just a moment what the date was. It was November 17th, 1995. A whole bunch of airliners reported an object going down the eastern seaboard. It was first reported by many people in Maine, and the object continued over Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and New York as it went south.
And so,
I wish, as you say, these pilots of these airliners would report them, because I'm sure they must be seeing them.
yeah, I mean, obviously, that's reminiscent of the USS Roosevelt on the East Coast in the 2015s, where the naval and Air Force pilots were seeing objects on the East Coast as well, and they finally were able to report them. But you're right. I think commercial pilots see things all the time that they're not, going to want to report. Although, thank God we have Dr. Richard Haynes from the NARCAP agency who does the pilot reports, the commercial and military and private pilot reports, because he has that AirCat catalog of literally thousands of commercial pilots that have reported these things. They like to do them anonymously, of course, as we know, Alex, because they just don't know. Although I think that's changing. I think there are, if the Navy can come out and encourage their pilots now, Peter, I'm hoping that the FAA would do something similar.
That's a good point. Maybe we should get back in touch with the FAA and point out that if they make the point to them that you just made, Michael. It's an excellent report, or excellent point. And
yeah,
if the military is revealing their sightings, then the civilian aviation authority should do the same.
I mean, my gosh, if you just saw the Unidentified television series just last weekend, the second episode, they're talking about military pilots from Vietnam and Afghanistan, and of course the Tic Tac guys on the Nimitz. They're really coming out and allowing these guys to report them and not harassing them any longer. So I would think that the FAA would step up to the plate, hopefully, and not just encourage it, but allow people to make solid reports without having any reprisals, from negative investigations.
Yeah, you make a good point. You argue it well.
Well,
I have another aviation-related report that I'd like to share with our audience, if I may.
Oh, go for it.
The report I just described is from Wrentham, Massachusetts. Occurred on Monday, the 13th of July, 2020. The next one I'd like to share occurred the following day, the 14th of July, Bastille Day in France, of course. And a gentleman who's describes himself as a businessman, I presume a very successful businessman, based upon his description of what he does. On Tuesday afternoon, again the 14th of July, he was in an aircraft taking off from SeaTac Airport just south of Seattle. And they took off at 1:40 p.m. Within 2 to 5 minutes, he estimates. He was looking out the left-hand side of the window. He was in the first-class cabin, and he saw a most amazing thing that streaked underneath their aircraft. He said it looked like 3 metallic, distinctly red spheres that appeared to him to be connected by some kind of device or some kind of structure. And the object was moving very fast. He saw it for, he estimates, less than 5 seconds. It went from his left to the right side of the aircraft. So it was, the aircraft, I presume, took off to the south because Tacoma was underneath their right wing. So that aircraft was still in controlled airspace. And there shouldn't have been anything. There should not have been a drone or anything that was not in communications with the tower. So,
oh my, yeah, that I have heard through the UFO I team that I direct as well, that other people down there at the SeaTac Airport are seeing things quite often, Matter of fact, I've even heard of people saying that they see things that are unexplainable so often that they didn't even report them anymore. They just see things that are streaking around that don't look like airplanes, that they're normally, getting used to seeing traffic when they live there, of course. But, boy, I can't imagine that, like you said, Peter, that the tower and the military and the FAA wouldn't have really freaked out about something like that, let alone, I'm sure. Now, obviously, it sounds to me that the pilot saw it as well as the passenger. I don't know about that, but can you imagine being a private pilot, doing that, and all of a sudden something zips underneath your left wing and goes over the right, from the right wing to the left wing underneath you in close proximity?
If the pilot saw it, they would have been shocked, and they would have reported it, because that's a violation of airspace to be in a control zone or be in that proximity to Class B airspace and not be in radio contact with the tower. So this week I will probably call the Air Route Traffic Control Center in Seattle and see if we can get somebody on the line who may know about it. But I've done that before, Michael. It's very discouraging to be brushed off on such an important issue.
Yeah.
That's what traditionally happens. The FAA is very good in calling to our attention certain incidents, but trying to get some information out of them can be difficult. I'm alluding to Freedom of Information Act requests. I've done many of them in past years, but I've grown sort of stale on it because they haven't been very productive.
Yeah, I understand, and they make it a little difficult even when they do give you information. I understand you have to have some type of a specialty device even to play some of those tapes, to kind of get the data from them. I know that Bill Puckett from UFOs Northwest was pretty proficient at getting those radar data, but you really have to be proficient in analyzing them as well.
Yeah, I've found that to be the case for sure. Another report I'd like to share with our audience comes from the following day after this sighting over SeaTac. July 15th at 3 p.m., Lakeport, New York. 4 adults were swimming in Lake Oneida, or Oneida Lake, I guess it is. Near and dear to my heart, because my mother, when she was a young girl back in the 20s and 30s, used to vacation on the Oneida Lake. Well, they were taking a late-night swim, going out to a raft, I guess, in the lake, and their attention was drawn to 2 very large lights in the distance east of us. And under circumstances like this, I'm invariably curious and suspicious to know whether they might have just been looking at stars or planets. But this witness asserts that the 2 lights suddenly accelerated from the southeastern sky, I believe, and flew over their heads at very high speed, disappearing over the northwestern horizon. So clearly not planets or stars, clearly not aircraft, leaving the question, what could they have been?
Oh my. I'm
getting a lot of reports like this of people reporting lights that are performing strange antics in the night sky.
Yeah. I can see that movie right now in my mind. 2 people swimming late at night out to the thing in the middle of the lake, and all of a sudden this red light shows up in the distance, and then streaks of. You wonder if they had any missing time out of something like that. That's typical. Those kinds of events sometimes do. So who knows? Oh my, Peter. This has been a fantastic night for aeronautical and astronomical sighting reports from local airports and still unexplainable. I we've got to take a break here at the bottom of the hour. But Peter, I want to thank you again for these very succinct reports.
You betcha. And if any of our listeners have any questions about them, please send me an email to director@ufocenter.com. I'll answer any questions they may have, and I'll give out the telephone number for the hotline again, if I may.
Yeah, definitely. So that's your email is director@ufocenter.com.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the hotline is area code 206-722-3000. And our website for follow-up written reports is ufocenter.com. Very simple. ufocenter.com. And
that mailing address, if people feel a little benevolent to send you $5, $10, $20 because of all your volunteer efforts all these decades, is 700 P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington. And what's the zip?
99122.
99122. That's P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington. Easy to remember because it's Peter Davenport in Davenport, Washington. 99172.
99122.
99122. Okay. Well, Peter, again, thank you so much for brightening up our first half hour of Spaced Out Sunday once again. You take care out there. Hopefully you're going to have some clear skies tonight for the comet, so you can enjoy that.
I'm going to be looking at it and listening to what Alex has to say. I'm keenly interested in what he's going to have to say tonight.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to have a fun time. So thank you again, Peter. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for the airtime, Michael.
All righty. All right, folks. Well, we are going to be right back with Alex Mistretti and more of Spaced Out Sunday in just a few moments.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans. It's John Resin, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Welcome back, folks, to Spaced Out Sunday. This is Michael W. Hall, your paranormal lawyer, coming at you tonight. Alex Mistretti is one of the few full-time professional paranormal field investigators. He is the former MUFON Los Angeles Director of Investigations, founder of Phenomena Research, co-founder of the UFOs and Paranormal Research Society of Los Angeles, and a former member of the Big Cats in Britain. Following his studies in anthropology and psychology at the University of Illinois in Chicago, Alex has devoted his life to research into the paranormal, UFOs, hidden history, and cryptozoology. Described as part Fox Mulder and part Indiana Jones, Alex has been featured on various television series, including UFO Files and Legend Hunters. And I am really excited to have Alex on Spaced Out Sunday tonight here. Welcome aboard, buddy. Thank you for being on our show.
Once again, thank you very much for the invite, and hello to everybody that's listening out there. I appreciate you guys tuning in.
Oh, it's going to be a great opportunity for me to get up to speed on all the decades of work that you've put in for the field out there of searching for the truth and all this interesting paranormal that we seem to be involved in. I always like to ask when we first start something like this, how the heck does a guy like yourself, with all this experience and university education, get involved in the paranormal to begin with?
Well, to be honest, I went to school and picked my major specifically because of my interest in the paranormal. I picked psychology and anthropology thinking it would give me the tools to kind of help me, later on and then in this field of work. I've been interested in this stuff since I was a little kid. I had a UFO sighting when I was 10. And but even before that, I would always ask my grandparents or my mom to buy me books on UFOs or ghosts or Loch Ness or whatever. Literally, since I was as far as I can remember, it's always been, aside from sports, it's always been my number one interest.
Yeah, I think I have this similar thing that you did, is that I can't really point to a UFO sighting or some kind of an experience as a kid. I was just always interested in that stuff. Sounds like you were too.
Yeah, I remember getting my first UFO book. It was like a comic book my grandparents bought me. My grandparents lived in France. I was born in France, grew up here in Los Angeles. So I would go back there during the summer, and then they bought me this book, and it was like a comic book, and it had all the famous cases up to the 70s, And I was just fascinated. I would read that every day over and over and over.
Yeah.
And then I was pretty much hooked from then on,
What do you think got you? For instance, were you one of those comic book guys like I was, Superman, Green Lantern, all those kind of guys as well, growing up?
Oh, yeah, I learned how to read through comic books.
Yeah.
Marvel, DC, that whole thing,
Yeah, exactly. So I think my thing started with comic books.
Yeah.
Kind of like, the first thing, matter of fact, as a kid, even before you can read, I'm kind of drawn to comic books because of the great color and the stories. You can kind of like pick a story out even if you couldn't read it. And that kind of got me thinking about, oh, wow, superpowers, maybe people from different worlds. That kind of got me started. And like you said, and all of a sudden you run across these, matter of fact, I'm older than you are. I'm 67 years old. Literally those 1950s contactee guys, George Adamski, George Van Tassel, and those old books that you get for, God, like a quarter, at a garage sale or something. Yeah. People would buy them and then not even pass them on to somebody. And I'd pick up those things and just scarf those down for sure.
Yeah, and then, so I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 1970, and then I'm 50 now. And then Search Off, kind of was on television, and that really set me off. Once you could kind of see things visually, not just read about it. Because that was the first show I can remember on the paranormal was in Search Off, with Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
And I was just I was just obsessed with that,
Oh, In Search Of was an awesome show. It was almost like, back in those days, they didn't have a whole lot of in-depth strangeness on television. You had the honeymooners. You had a lot of entertainment on television. And all of a sudden, a show like that came along. Of course, Leonard Nimoy was, very well known and quite highly respected as well. So I don't know why he was so highly respected being an actor like that. But of course, he was Spock, on Star Trek. And everybody said, oh, well, this is interesting stuff, UFOs and Project Blue Book and all that kind of stuff, Fascinating.
Yeah, that was the only show at the time. They had Eric Von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods. That was on TV once in a while, and they had one Bigfoot documentary. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember watching that as a kid.
Oh.
And for us, that was it.
Yeah. The Legend of Boggy Creek. I remember.
Yeah, there's that one too. Yeah, it was a little bit later on, which is, I still watch once in a while.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic B movie.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the cool thing about the internet and Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff, you can actually find those old films, the classics still. I sometimes I'll binge on those rather than watch the new stuff,
Well, there's less actors back then playing roles in some of these so-called documentaries,
Yeah. No, that's for sure. You got your degree there in Chicago, did you?
Yeah, University of Illinois at Chicago, yeah.
Yeah. And was that where you're living during that period of life?
Yeah, originally, so we moved to Chicago when I was in high school, and I was a volleyball player and a fencer, sports of fencing.
Oh, my.
And originally, I was going to go to Stanford for both sports.
Right.
And then I decided to take a couple years off from after high school, and ended up staying in Chicago. And by then, obviously the scholarships were long gone by then, and I decided to go to UIC at the time, and that was that. I until the day I graduated, when I came right back to LA because I couldn't take the weather anymore.
Yeah. My goodness, fencing. Oh my God! I thought I was a little strange in college. I was a wrestler all the way through college. And that was not the most popular sport, of course. It's like you're out there sweating and killing yourself for not a whole lot of people watching you. But fencing would have been quite an interesting sport. How did you pick that up?
Strangely enough, when I was in grade school. Right here in LA, there's a guy, one of the teachers at school taught fencing. And truth be told, he had the hots for my mom. so he wanted to teach me fencing in order to get, to talk to my mom was pretty much what the story was. And so I started fencing with him. And then eventually when we moved to Chicago, I kept going. And then next thing I know, I was serious. I was actually an Olympic hopeful at one point. And I was really, I was fencing every day. It was really...
Yeah.
Part of my life. So,
are you a right-handed or a left-handed fencer?
Oh, right-handed.
Does it? By the way, I wondered about that because I am left-handed all the way. And in high school, in golf class, you'd take PE with golf at one point. I never could do that because I never had a left-handed, set of clubs. Is there an advantage of being left-handed in fencing, or is it a disadvantage?
It's a huge advantage because there's not as many of them, and you don't get to practice against left-handers as much. And I still can remember I was 15, my first international, my big time, first competition.
Wow.
I was fencing a Canadian. It was my first big time left-hander I had to fence. And he just killed me 5-0. And I'm still angry about it, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And I could not figure out that left-handed, it was killing me. And that was always an issue with me for a while.
Oh, don't you hate that? I have those things in the back of my athletic career as well. Yeah. I'll tell you about mine. I went to the state tournament in high school, and got third in the state because the two best guys from Eastern Washington were just gorillas. They were huge guys. So I'm thinking, well, at least I survived. I placed at state. I think I'll go to college and maybe I'll turn out there and stuff. The same two guys that beat the crap out of me showed up on the first day of wrestling at college and ended up being on our team. So I ended up having to go up a weight to get out of their weight class, Yeah, those things kill you. But, what the heck? You live and you learn. And I think that we bring to our life experience all of those interesting athletic endeavors that people sometimes don't have the opportunity to do because obviously fencing would have been quite an amazing sport to not only be physical act, because I know fencing is a very physical and taxing sport, but the mind games and the that kind of thing that goes along with it is interesting too.
Well, it trains your brain to think really quickly because you have such a short response time, and you have to anticipate what that person's going to do, and then you have to anticipate your response, and then what his response is going to be. And it does. You learn a lot, and it helps develop your brain. And end up, it really helped in school actually because you end up taking tests that much quicker because your brain has developed to think, pretty quickly. So
Oh, I'll bet. And reactions have to be instantaneous and almost, it's like a wrestler. You're thinking like 2 or 3 moves ahead, that kind of thing. But you have to do it instantaneously in a situation like fencing. That's fascinating stuff. So at college, after that, when was the first time that you really dove deep into the idea of becoming like an investigator of the paranormal?
Well, it kind of happened in two separate instances. So right after college, I went to a MUFON LA meeting, and I don't even remember who the speaker was. I sat there in the audience, and I went up to whoever the director was at the time. I can't even recall his name now. And I asked, I go, hey, man, I want to be an investigator for you guys, you know? And he ignored me completely. And the next guy ignored me completely, you know? It wasn't until Steve Murillo, who's like one of my, best friends down in the field, became head of MUFON LA. Then I went up to him and I'm like, hey, I'd like to become an investigator. And then, and Bill Casey at the time was director of investigations, which was a really nice man. And that kind of started it. But at the same time, I was interested in cryptozoology. And there was this project in Africa, this mysterious animal called Mokere Membe. And I'd been trying to get an expedition going because, after with a psychology and anthropology degree, I was a little impatient. I didn't want to go to grad school and all that. And without that, it's really hard to make money. And you're all of a sudden, you're looking at your apartment and you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do next month? So I wanted to get into making documentaries. And I thought that would be kind of like via documentaries I can get into cryptozoology because it would pay. Essentially, I just wanted to get paid to travel and, investigate. And so I spent 2 years working, getting this project together in Africa, which eventually was canceled. But that was my intro.
Well, tell us a little bit about this creature that you were going to try to make a documentary of. Was this a Bigfoot creature?
No, it's so for lack of a better word, it looks like a dinosaur.
Ah.
Right. So it has a huge body, about the size of a hippo, size of an elephant. It's got a long neck and a small head, but it's a quadruped and a long and powerful tail. There's been sightings in the Congo region and elsewhere in Africa for hundreds of years. And it wasn't until the missionaries and the early explorers started coming back from that area in Africa that some of the stories starting, coming out in the press, especially in Europe. But at the University of Chicago, there was a professor that I heard some of these tales. And I'm drawing a complete blank on his name right now, and he wrote a book. But nonetheless, he was the first kind of well-publicized expedition that went down to Africa to look for this animal. And that's kind of what inspired me. And luckily, through my stepfather, I had a lot of connections, including the police chief in Kinshasa, in the Congo, and some military connections down there. So I was able to get a lot of people in the Congo to do a lot of work for me in terms of preparing for this expedition. And luckily, I was also able to get firsthand testimony from fishermen and people that actually seen this animal in the region. So it was, once you start, it's like, it's one thing, right? You're doing internet research, you're looking at documentaries, and you hear other people's story. But once you start getting things firsthand,
yeah,
you kind of get a whole new perspective,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once you hear that first Bigfoot story from someone that you know or respect, you go, holy mackerel,
Yeah.
What's going on here?
First track, it's like your world changes,
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating stuff. Because I had never heard of that cryptid before in South Africa. That sounds interesting.
In Central Africa.
Oh, Central. Okay.
Yeah, from the Congo to Gabon to Cameroon. That's usually the area where it's most often reported.
Any bones, any physical traces or anything like that that you came across in your research for that character?
No, it's pretty slim. There's one alleged picture from a Japanese film crew overhead, but it's far from being conclusive. There's a lot of footprints, though. A lot of tracks that have been found by explorers that, and huge footprints. It looks like there's 3 toes to 4 toes. And aside from that, if I didn't get firsthand testimony, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. This may exist, this may not,
Yeah.
But it's, and there's just a lot of stories. And again, normally just stories bother me, but with this guy, I feel pretty confident there's something to it. And again, I'm not saying it's a dinosaur by any means. People call it a dinosaur because of the way it looks.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of other possibilities. It could be a mammal, it could be a reptile. There's a lot of different modalities that can make this animal real. So, it's still my my life dream to get an expedition going and get back out there or go out there for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. So it's interesting to me that you're interested in cryptids and the paranormal. Are you into UFOs as well?
Yeah, I do the whole deal. You know, I've always been interested in all three. I mean, I think it's part of my problem in life. It's hard for me to focus on just one thing. I want to do it all. You know, I want it all. I want it now. You know?
Yeah,
I'm not
I know.
a patient guy either, but yeah.
No, it's I call folks like yourself polymorphs. And I'm kind of one of them myself. I could not see myself doing one thing my entire life, you know, and having to go to work and do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I think that's why I became later in life. I didn't go to law school till I was 32.
Okay.
Decided that I wanted to work for myself instead of working at a firm, and that's one reason. I just couldn't imagine doing the same thing every day. You know, do wills and probates the rest of my life. You know, without some excitement of personal injury cases or criminal defense or something like that. You know. Oh, that's fascinating stuff. Now, you said something about your father, your stepfather, being in the military. Was he in the past?
No, he had a lot of connections
from
a lot of friends of his that were in the military in pretty high position, and a lot of people in the intelligence community.
Oh.
Which actually, you know, kind of comes into handy once in a while with UFOs or whatever. But yeah, so luckily they had a lot of connections in the Congo. In fact, we were able to get, like, we had these 2 Mi-26 helicopters with Russian pilots that were down there, you know, doing private work for whoever. I mean, we had a submersible that was supposed to go on top of the water, and then we, you know, submerge under the water, look for this animal. We were really fortunate. We had everything you could possibly imagine in a huge budget until Civil War broke out, you know. But
yeah. Oh my. Yeah, it sounds like you were on top of the whole issue there at one. But isn't that interesting when we look back on our lives and we figure we were that close, you know, to something, and things seem to be falling into place, and then all of a sudden you got to change your plans, you know, at the last minute. Sometimes that happens, and you always wonder why. You know, what would have happened if we would have gone forward with that expedition at that time? Oh my goodness! Do you have any siblings that were interested in this same kind of thing, or were you the only child that was kind of like crazy enough to get into this?
No, it's just me. My brother lives in Greece, and he's interested in this stuff because of me, but it kind of freaks him out a little bit. And he's a musician. You know, we have a different father. He's the son of my first stepdad, which is the stepdad I grew up with. So he was a singer. He was a singer in Europe. So much different path. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Did you ever get into music yourself when you were growing up, or was that something else you just left aside?
No, I mean, I've always been like, I mean, not a day goes by when I don't have my iPod on and my headphones listening to music. But yeah, I was never a musician. Or there was only so much time, you know, between all the sports practices all the time, and you know, and this stuff. So. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, when you're an Olympic hopeful, my goodness, that is like your life for quite a few years, I would imagine. What would have been the Olympics that you would have been trying out for at that point in your life?
We were talking from anything from 1992, 1996 was kind of like what my coach's plan was, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
So, but
that was when the Olympics really meant something back in those days. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 96 obviously was in Atlanta, so that's something I had my eyes on because, you know, it was going to be a home Olympics, which would have been nice, you know, but.
Oh, wouldn't that have been fun? Yeah. Holy mackerel. Oh, awesome. Well, listen, thank you for indulging me in some of these crazy questions that I asked that have nothing to do with UFOs or cryptids, but it's always nice to get to know someone a little better as well. We'll take a break here at the bottom of the hour. And like I said, we got about 6 minutes, you know, of commercial time. You can relax, mute your microphone when we're going to commercial here, and then we'll see you back here at Spaced Out Sunday in just a few moments.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans. It's John Resin, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. Thanks for joining me. We welcome back everyone listening in on the terrestrial affiliates of WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 in New Orleans. And on the digital side, we are very proud to be on Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always check our archives for free at any time on youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot and shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, or catching up on the Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. We are having a wonderful show here tonight with the paranormal researcher, Alex Mistretti. Alex, are you back?
I am back.
Hey, wonderful. Thank you for a wonderful first hour. That was interesting, and we got to know you a little bit better here on Spaced Out Sunday. Now, let's get a little bit some of the details of what you've been doing here in the last, how many decades have you been doing this? Since college?
Yeah, since I graduated in 1997. So basically, since the late 90s, I've been, involved in this field in one way or another.
Yeah. Good for you. That's about the time Peter Davenport, in the early 90s when he took over the National UFO Reporting Center. That was a real treat to have you co-host that section of the show at the top of the hour with Peter. It's always nice to be able to introduce Peter around to some of our guests out there. And it was interesting that you had a sighting report. It's very similar to one of the ones that Peter was talking about.
Yeah, complete serendipity, but yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. So if someone basically wanted to learn about Alex Mistretti, would they be learning more about the cryptid area, more about the MUFON UFO area in your regard, or or what did you actually do for MUFON during those, years you were the chief investigator down there at MUFON LA? In fact, that might be fun to talk about some of those interesting cases they might have run across back in those days, of how things affected you back down there when you were the head of investigations.
Yeah, I mean, like these days, I do a lot more cryptozoology than anything else, just because there seems to be more tangible answers, and that kind of interests me a lot more these days. And so, for the record, I left MUFON, quite a few years ago. But yeah, I was with MUFON for about 10, 13 years. Most of that time, as I think my first year, Bill Casey was head of investigations for MUFON LA, and I took over. I think after about my first year there, and then for about almost 12 years, I was basically the only person doing investigations. We had people that come in and wanted to help once in a while, but that would, usually people kind of fade out real quick. So I was doing, it was almost like a full-time job at that point, especially in Los Angeles, such a big area. And I don't believe in taking sightings just on the phone. I like to meet with people face to face. I like to go to the area they have their sightings on. I like to see the spot around the same time of day. They've had their sighting at the same time of night. So it took, it was a huge part of my life for many, many, many years.
Oh my. You might want to describe what kind of a go bag did you have to go out on the field like that? Did you have like instruments at all, or kind of things that you gather evidence?
Unfortunately, I didn't have a whole lot. I was pretty broke. I mean, the MUFON chapters don't get money from MUFON International, so everything's kind of on our own. So, it was basically just me taking a lot of pictures and just being as thorough as I could, with my investigations. Obviously I had, we had one case, which actually we took off the books because it was towards the end of my tenure at MUFON. We were having a lot of problems. And at that time, I had joined STAR Team. I was one of the first guys to get on their STAR Team. So they send me a bag with a compass and, things that contain soil samples, whatever, a bunch of bags, a pen. It was pretty much all the equipment that I had. And we had a great sighting in Pine Mountain, California, where an object supposedly landed in a clearing over there in the forest. So it was like the only time I got to use my little bottles and get my soil samples and all that. But
yeah,
the truth of the matter is, it's a low budget operation, and that's kind of like part of the problem, I think, in ufology.
Well, of course, that's always been the problem, unless you're
right.
Unless you're the National Institute of Discovery Science and you've got Robert Bigelow backing you up, you never know. But that's why it's interesting that Peter has always been so remarkable over the decades, doing all of that volunteer work on the phone himself, pretty much, and gathering up all the sighting reports and stuff. I don't either. The guy, literally, when you call 206-702-3000, pretty much Peter Davenport's going to answer the phone. No matter if you're calling, like you said, up till midnight, he pretty much answers the phone. So it's fascinating to me that he has that stick-to-itiveness, and given the fact that there are a lot of people out there that are just, these young kids are just calling to do pranks and stuff too. So he has to deal with all of that flack, just to get through a day, But, I remember when Peter was the guy who broke the Phoenix Lights case. Remember that in 1997?
Yeah.
What were you doing at that point? Do you remember that case when you were on MUFON, or was that before you started down there?
It was right around the time I first got started. So I remember when it happened, but I don't remember a whole lot of details of what I was doing while it was going on.
Yeah.
I eventually got to go, to the mountain when they had the major sighting, and a few years later. But otherwise, yeah, I don't recall exactly what I was doing at the time. But obviously, I remember the event. It was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
In our world. So.
And I remember Peter calling me up when it happened, telling me what was going on. I was his attorney since 1995, so I get all these phone calls in the middle of the night sometimes from Peter. I'm going, oh no, now what's going on, And he told me about the Phoenix Lights thing, just freaking everybody out. in the valley there, and the really weird thing was that it was probably, I don't know how many months went by before he finally got any traction to get that thing out in the mainstream media. It took him a long time to get finally, I think it was USA Today finally picked up the story and ran with it. And then, of course, the mainstream media jumped all over it. But it was like he couldn't even get arrested with that case for the first few months of the thing, even though thousands of people saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that and, kind of the 1992 Mexican wave.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking at the time, I go, so many people have seen these things. This is a turning point where people are going to pay attention, And even with the lights in Phoenix, the Phoenix light, sure, it was a big media thing for about 2 months, and then nobody cared, And it was like the first time I realized, we're going to need a lot more than that, to turn the tide and get people interested out in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it changed me a lot because that was my approach since then, and I mean even before then. But was always I always wanted to kind of bridge the gap between the community and kind of everybody else in the world. Kind of bring this out to the rest of the world because the phenomenon doesn't really belong to us. It's probably the most important thing in the history of the world. The contact with a possible alien intelligence. And I always thought that the rest of the world should grab onto this, but I don't know what it's going to take,
Yeah, we were commiserating before the show about the potential second shoe drop from the New York Times about the issue of crash retrievals and the Admiral Wilson, Eric Davis smoking gun memo, of the century that Richard Dolan calls it and stuff. It's interesting to me that first New York Times article came out December 16th of 2017. And for the first time on the history of our planet, a government or military authority is telling us that UFOs actually exist. For the first time back in 2017. What was your feeling when that thing came out back then?
I was already a little skeptical that I wasn't sure this was going to go anywhere, and I remember not too long after that, I was picking Grant Cameron up at his hotel, and I was driving him up to UPAR's meeting, and then LA traffic was stuck in the car for about an hour and a half, and we had a lot of time to talk about all that stuff, and we were talking. I was saying that I just keep thinking that this whole thing's a little bit of a setup, and they've left themselves a way out. They're kind of testing the waters a little bit to see how people respond, but I mean. Honestly, though, if you're not experienced in terms of in aviation or knowing what the videos really demonstrate, for most people, it's not that clear. It's not the smoking gun, and in that way, they let themselves away out a little bit. So I always thought there was kind of it was planned. I think it had been planned for a while, and I think, and Grant was kind of what Grant was telling me in the car. But so again, I think, I've been through this once or twice, and my take in all this, though, is ultimately, however you feel about the TTSA and this whole thing, it gets the ball rolling, though, because my hope is that independently of this, you'll get more pilots that'll feel like, well, it's okay for me to speak out now. There'll be, more commercial pilots, but more military pilots. And because not everybody is in on the secret. Ultimately, the people that are really in on the secret aren't the people that are coming out with this type of disclosure in the New York Times. It's a lot more, it goes way above that. So I'm hoping that the ball gets rolling, and little by little, it's kind of like a forced disclosure type of thing. But I don't believe in disclosure. I don't think it's going to happen with this, not full disclosure. Now, if this article comes out, we're talking about New York Times about crashed saucers. That's a whole new ball game because it's hard to backtrack on that,
Yeah.
But again, I'd have to see how it's phrased and all that, and I'm just cautiously optimistic, as always. But, I've been around the block a little bit, so
yeah,
there's a lot of agendas.
Oh man, isn't there? Of course, we've heard about the whole idea that there's, the white hats, the black hats, the gray hats. Even at the Pentagon level, people arguing behind the scenes of whether this is a good thing to disclose or not, and. I am really anticipating what this new article could be from the New York Times. I mean, if indeed, I literally got a phone call from Ralph Blumenthal myself on May 11th, and he was, at that point, calling myself and other folks just trying to get some information on this follow-up article that they were working on. And indeed, you wonder, what could they say in a follow-up article that they haven't already said? They've said that UFOs exist. They say that they're not ours, they're not Soviet, they're not Chinese. And of course, Luis Elizondo on Unidentified, the television series, says, well, yeah, we do have crashed alien technology. He's actually said that. So now I'm wondering, what the heck could they be saying in a follow-up article? The only thing I could think of is that they're going to have to go to this thing that we do have potentially a program to reverse engineer alien technology. They've already gone to the TTSA guys with the bismuth, pieces, and they're kind of, doing the analysis of certain materials that they say have isotopic ratios that don't exist in our solar system. So I'm really anticipating what they might say. And of course, as we know, Alex, once they get to that tipping point where they're actually going to admit that aliens exist somehow, oh my, that's going to be a game changer.
I hope so, but I have my doubts. Here's the thing with me, though. I remember right before the New York Times article came out, Bob Bigelow was on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was watching that, and this is a pretty well-respected program that a lot of people that are not interested in UFOs watch every week, Granted, it's skewed a little bit older demographic, but nonetheless, a lot of people watch it. And, and Bigelow goes on there and straight up says that aliens are walking among us. Just straight up lays it out. They're here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but the next day this is going to be huge, right? All the media is going to talk about it. It's going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Nothing, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing. So and then a little bit later, these articles come out and where they literally admit that these UFOs are real and they're not ours. And, and it seems like nobody cared.
Yeah.
And that worries me. I don't know how much people really, and granted, it's a weird year, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that plays into it. It's like there's so many moving parts right now.
That's a good point, Alex. We've, when 2017 came out and the New York Times article, and when Robert Bigelow was making his, announcement on 60 Minutes that he thinks aliens are visiting the planet, we were under a total different time on the planet. I'm wondering how people will handle any kind of disclosure news, given the fact that we're locked down and we're, under a restriction on the planet itself. So that could be very interesting. I'm wondering if more people will be listening to that potential news or not. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's such within this weird zeitgeist where there's such a lack of trust with the media these days. Everything's so politicized and everything, and that plays into it as well. It's like there's the line between reality and fiction now. Even with news programs, that it's really blurred, and people know that, and people don't care. And so I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have from that standpoint. People are so conditioned to just see crazy things and be okay with it. On one hand,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, not believe it at the same time. It's like I said, such a weird time period from a psychological standpoint, and I don't know how people are going to respond. The other thing too is I have a hard time believing that the people that really know are willing to admit that much, because if you really think about it from a United States point of view, you're talking about an alien power that are violating our airspace. If Russia or China did that under most conditions, who knows today, that would be considered an act of war. Now, admitting that we're powerless against, an alien species or whoever is piloting these UFOs, they can enter our airspace, do whatever they want, and there's absolutely nothing that we can do about it. And I think that's such a huge thing to admit. It's such a, to give up that much power. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I just keep thinking they're going to twist it in some direction to take advantage of it somehow. And it's not going to be real disclosure.
No, I think you're right. I think they're definitely spinning this thing for sure. There is a reason why they're actually doing whatever disclosure they're doing. I mean, you've been around this field for decades, like myself, and I can never remember a time where rapid fire, drips of disclosure are hitting even the mainstream media nowadays, Fox News even, and those kinds of things, where literally people are going on national news like Luis Elizondo and talking about the fact that we've got alien craft or technology that we're, captured, those kinds of stuff. So you wonder how they're going to deal with whatever they're going to say. What are they going to spin it at? What is going to be the outcome of any disclosure that they give? One thing we got to think about as well is that, I'm a faith-based guy. I literally was vice president of Puget Sound Christian College for many years. During my time that I was even a lawyer, I was their business manager as well. And you wonder what the faith-based community is going to do with some kind of disclosure of the fact that we might not be alone in the universe. And just that thing alone is going to really impact the local corner pastor, the Baptist minister, the people that have to face a congregation every week, although they're not doing that so much anymore, with the COVID thing. But I hope that we can keep the faith-based community together during this transition of reality. I don't know what the reality is going to be, but there will be a whole lot of folks that will be going, wait a minute, I didn't hear about this in the Bible or, sacred scripture anywhere. So it's going to be fascinating to me how the world handles whatever's coming down the road.
Yeah, it's a really weird time. There's so many possibilities. Things are going so many different directions right now. And obviously, I think in some ways, though, in terms of what the United States is up to, I find it hard to believe they'd make a definite decision on disclosure or something close to it before the election. You might want to wait till a little more stability post that.
That's a good point. And that might limit what they're going to do in this New York Times article, obviously. I don't know if you felt like I felt that supposedly this second article is going to be imminent. It was supposed to be maybe even last week, and then the MUFON thing happened, and, I don't know if they're going to postpone it for a while for that. But yeah, if they're going to come out with something before the election, you wonder how they're going to explain that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. That's why I'd be surprised if something that major drops anytime soon, and after that, I think it depends where the country's at. And,
Yeah.
No, it's something that I was, there's obviously we're not the only ones that know. You have to think some of the major powers like Russia, China, have their own version of this and their own plans with it. And, what do they know, what they don't know. I think we sometimes focus way too much on just the United States. Because if you start going behind the scenes in terms of the military-industrial complex and the people that really are involved with the big secrets, because it's all about money and power, it's more of an international, modality. So I think there's more players than just us involved ultimately that make these decisions. So, like I said, it's such a weird time in the world right now.
Yeah, good point. For instance, what would the UN do? And how would they have, what input would they have, for instance, to that kind of an announcement? That whoever's going to make whatever announcement regarding disclosure, they're telling a few people behind the scenes what's happening, and you wonder what kind of input they're going to get. Of course, France and different countries have been a lot more upfront than we have in that regard, as far as the actual phenomena itself. But you wonder what kind of fallout that's going to happen worldwide. If indeed Ronald Reagan was correct, when he mentioned that, what would happen if we all got together because of some external threat, to the planet. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, looking at what's going on right now, my hopes aren't very high in terms of us getting together, to be honest.
Boy, that's for sure. We're having a difficult time domestically, even getting along, that's for sure. Well, listen.
My hopes aren't real high, I wouldn't be honest.
We're going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour. We got 6 more minutes or so of a commercial break. So you relax, Alex, and we will be right back here with more Spaced Out Sunday.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docu-series featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and strange humanoids. Truth seekers Stephen Bassett, Jeff Meldrum, Jack Kasher, and Stanton Friedman, among others, all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website, and let's figure out what's going on together.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Well, we are back on Spaced Out Sunday. Thank you for joining me and my guest, Alex Mistretti. We are talking cryptids and UFOs and the paranormal. Alex, you know, we've been talking about a lot of UFO and MUFON and stuff recently. Maybe we should get into some of your cryptid stuff. I understand you've written a book as well.
Yeah, I did. It's called The Presence, an Exploration into the Paranormal.
Oh, I like that title. Let's tell it again and tell people where they can get a hold of something like that.
Yeah. It's called The Presence, an Exploration into the Paranormal. And it's available on Amazon. It's probably the best place to get it.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we... tell us about that book and what we're going to find when we look at that kind of process.
Well, so it's separated into different sections. There's a UFO section, which is which basically takes some of my cases. Everything starts with a working hypothesis in every chapter, and I kind of go on from there. So it's not so much citing reports; it's more hypothetical and theories and hypotheses and all that, with some of my my adventures, so to speak, thrown in there. Then there's a section on the first section is actually just paranormal stuff. It's all my work with poltergeists, haunted houses, parapsychology, that sort of thing. I worked many years with Dr. Barry Taft, so a lot of that's in the book. And then the biggest part is probably the cryptozoology section, because there's just so much to it. There's a huge chapter on Bigfoot and friends, and obviously Moken and Mende is a huge part of it. Lake monsters, you name it, and then Mongolian death worm, which I love.
Whoa!
And then there's some more unusual stuff. Like I wrote 2 papers in college on Haitian voodoo and zombies in Haiti.
Really?
So there's a big chapter on that, and a few other topics here and there.
So what's your impression of the whole zombie thing to begin with? Sounds like you've got some history and research into that area.
Well, here's a funny thing. So I was, an anthropology student, as we already covered. And by my senior year, I did pretty well in school, and I got along with my professor really well. His name was Walter Hardwig, which is actually the gentleman that discovered giant monkeys, or fossils of giant monkeys in South America. And he goes, look, man, he's like, you want to do an independent study? Which means I didn't have to go to class. I just picked a topic, and I could do, excuse me for a second. I was joking. Which means that I could just write a long paper at the end and do my own study, at my own time. He knew that I was an athlete and all that. I didn't have a whole lot of time. So it turns out we did 2 back-to-back. And he goes, you can pick any subject you want. I go, any subject. He's like, anything. I go, anything, you sure? He's like, absolutely. I'll give it to you. I go, Bigfoot. He's like, no, anything but that. And so I'm like, how about zombies? He's like, yeah, okay.
Whoa.
So at the time, there was an ethnobotanist from Harvard named Wade Davis, which did a study of Haitian voodoo from a cultural aspect for Harvard. And he encountered, what would eventually be called zombies in Haiti, which wasn't really what people thought it was. So the book was called The Serpent and the Rainbow. There's a movie by Wes Craven of the same name, which was based on Wade Davis's work, which obviously was much fictionalized, right? And so I focused both papers on two different aspects of it. The first one was the cultural aspect of zombification, and the second paper was on the pharmaceutical aspect of zombification. So for a little quick background on how it works. So in rural Haiti, there's this secret society called the Bizongo Society. And they have their hands a little bit in everything, as most behind-the-scenes secret society dudes are very political. They run a lot of small villages and all that. And they make a lot of the rules. And there's certain rules that you cannot break, such as you can't murder somebody, you can't steal land from your brother, you can't father children of a lot of different women. Those are rules that are looked down upon from the Bizongo Society. In the most extreme cases, you're out for what's called zombification. And I know it sounds crazy, but what happens is, so if you break one of those rules, somebody can sell you to a bokor, which is, in Bizongo Society, it's one of their sorcerer, which also happens to be a pretty good chemist. So it's like the death penalty. So in Haiti, they're not afraid of zombies, they're afraid of becoming a zombie. So once you're sold, what they do, they prepare a potion, which is partly tetrodotoxin, TTX, which is found in pufferfish. And what it does is it puts you to sleep, and it makes it seem like you're dead. So all you're able to detect is a heartbeat. But still, it's so faint that you'd have to go to the hospital to be able to detect that heartbeat. So basically, it's just brainwaves. But you're aware of what's going on. It just thinks you just look like you're dead. And there's other hallucinogenic drugs that are given along with TTX, and it's called a zombie powder. It's applied topically, meaning that it can be absorbed through the skin. So then there's this whole ceremony involved. They put you in the ground for up to 72 hours, because past that, you suffer too much brain damage. And then they do the whole voodoo ritual, the drums, the whole deal. And then they take you out of the ground. 72 hours is max. Most of the ceremonies, they take you out within 24, even, a few hours, 48 hours, whatever, depends on the case. Again, it's not something that happens every day. So once that happens, you lose all rights, because, like I said, it's like the death penalty, right? And what they do is you take you out, so obviously you didn't actually die. You symbolically died. But then they give you another drug, a maintenance drug. Nobody knows what it is. I think it's something called daturostramonium, which is another hallucinogenic. And you're sold to plantations out, even further out in rural Haiti, and you get used as slave labor. And that's what zombies are in Haiti. It's very different from the Hollywood version. So it becomes this whole, socioeconomic system based on zombies in rural Haiti. And that surprised a lot of people, because no one, you say zombies, it sounds like the craziest thing in the world. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it so badly, and I wrote those two papers, was because it kind of demonstrates that you can take any phenomena, Bigfoot, UFOs, Loch Ness, ghosts, and if you take the right angle, you can explain it. Doesn't mean you can explain it with today's science. You might have to take a step beyond that. You have to expound upon what we know is real, what science is, but everything can be explained. Anything. I don't care what it is. I firmly believe that. You just got to grab the right angle. And I think, because what Bigfoot sounds crazy, right? Alien sounds crazy. Does anything sound crazier than zombies? Yet we were able to demonstrate that the phenomena actually exist. And,
Yeah. Oh, my. Boy, you really educated me real quick on that whole idea of zombification as being part of a penalty system within that local lore, huh? So, for instance, if you did one of those mortal sins or terrible sins that they can't do, would there be a trial? Would there be like some kind of a or just an elder saying that now you're becoming now you're going to have to become a zombie? How do you get the actual thing started in that regard?
You have no idea. It's like, for example, let's say you steal land from your brother, right? And your brother decides he wants to sell you, to a Bokor, so you can become a zombie. He goes to a high placed individual in the Bizongo society. He gets permission, and they approach the Bokor, which makes the powder, which takes about 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever, to prepare it. And he secretly administers, to the victim. So, for example, they'll put it at if you walk barefoot at your house, they'll put it in front of the door so you can step on it and it can be absorbed through the feet. So, if you've seen the movies, they kind of blow it at you so you can absorb it through the nose and the mouth, but that's not necessary. It's topically active.
Yeah.
It can be absorbed through the skin, so you have no idea it's coming.
I see. So,
and again, don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen every day. It's very, very rare. First of all, not everybody knows people in the Bizongo society or is willing to go that far with it, but
yeah,
it still does happen.
Oh my. So, they pretty much capture the person unawares and get them into that process. How do they maintain? You said that there was some kind of a maintenance process once they're, once they're a slave for someone else later on. Is there some kind of a maintenance process that keeps them under control, or
nobody really knows, because Wade Davis kind of stopped his study when he came back with the zombie powder, brought it back to Harvard. And he was never sure either what the maintenance drug was. He just, he had a hypothesis that there was one. No one really knows if there is one or not. I think there is, because now in some cases I think people probably are brain damaged to a certain extent. Even when even with just your brainwave activity and all that, you're still underground for a long period of time, even from a psychological standpoint. And you still you're not breathing that well, whatever. It makes you pretty sick. TTX makes you very, very sick. So. But at that point, I still think you have to keep people in a pretty mellow state. And, any kind of hallucinogenic properties would do that. And like I said, they have a stramonium, that Taurus stramonium, which is Winston Winston, I forgot what the other name for it is. But anyway, it's a drug that's very available in Haiti. It's a plant. And it kind of keeps you in the docile state. And, after that, I think there's a lot of expectations too. In anthropology, we have a thing called voodoo death, which actually has nothing to do with voodoo whatsoever. But it's the belief system where in primitive societies where you have witch doctors, if you think the witch doctor is going to make you sick, you're going to become sick.
Yeah.
And I think cultural expectations play into the docility of the zombies once they're taken out of the ground. And there's probably a lot of fear involved too,
Yeah. Wow.
But I think, and there's the lore is that once their master dies, whoever the plantation owner is, you kind of get out of you come back to life, so to speak, and you're able to function back into society.
Wow.
And a couple people have actually come back and been and actually function in normal society after that with some mental deficiencies to a certain extent. So
yeah,
like I said, nobody knows what the drug is. My hypothesis is that there is a drug.
Yeah. Wow. And this was a Harvard professor that was going over there to study this and found this out, huh?
Yeah, Wade Davis was his name. He's written a lot of books, a lot of anthropology book, that sort of thing. He was pretty famous for a short period of time. Did some TED Talks, whatever. You can see him on. People can Google him on YouTube, and you'll see some of his interviews. Interesting guy. It was the only reason I was allowed to do the studies, only because it was a guy from Harvard,
Yeah.
And because I was arrogant enough to think I could follow up.
Yeah, right. And how about your supervising professor? I bet he was a little impressed once you came up with the report that you did.
Yeah, he always. I was pretty lucky. He was the reason I got it going is because he liked me a lot. I did, like I said, I did well with his classes and all that. So, I used to go to his office. We used to talk, anthropology a lot. So, but yeah, it was the anthropology department was actually really happy with it, with the papers, which, was. Obviously, it was good for me, but
yeah,
I wish I still had him. In fact, but I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, that would be interesting if you could publish those nowadays. That would be fascinating with all the the people that are into at least, you know, the movies anyway and all that kind of stuff would be interested to see where they actually came from, the, you know, the scientific analysis of that whole idea.
Yeah, the interesting part too is when Davis brought back the zombie powder, and they were able to identify what was in it. So the TTX from the pufferfish, there was bufotoxin from a toad, and everything else was inert. But when they tested it, it would work sometimes, and other times it wouldn't. You know, so it still hasn't been officially proven, and it's still one of my goals to eventually kind of make it down there. But obviously, there's been a lot of issues in Haiti with the earthquake and the economic situation and all the violence and all that. It's been hard, you know, get anybody interested to go out there and do a study. But I always thought that no one's ever filmed a zombie. No one's ever been to a plantation to film it. No one's ever filmed a ceremony, you know?
Yeah.
And I always thought that we really should thrive to be able to do that, and I think we can. But I think it would be fascinating.
Well, yeah, there's been the ayahuasca kind of documentaries for sure. But something like that would be very interesting to find out if that's still going on. And literally they're burying a guy under the ground for a period of time. Is that right? There's no there's no tube to breathe or anything like that because his body functions are so low he doesn't need oxygen at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they'll put a hole in the coffin from what I hear, but since no one's ever seen it, you know, I'm honestly not entirely sure how to do it.
Yeah. Wow.
And even Wade Davis never got to see it. He just heard about, you know, the stories that actually, you know, put you on the ground. But
yeah.
And there are pictures in his book, in fact, that was given to him about them taking somebody out of the ground. But that's all that we know. Oh, fascinating stuff.
So that's that. I can see why you were so intrigued with anthropology. You know, going through school and your studies there. Anything else in that kind of arena, anthropology, that caught your interest as well in your book?
Well, obviously, from an evolutionary standpoint, you have to bring up Bigfoot, you know. And part of the reason I took physical anthropology is the fact that I could study fossils in college and be able to compare them to what we know about Bigfoot, how that species walks, how they move, their behavior, you know, their head structure, whatever, you know, the foot. If it compares favorably to fossils that we have, you know, that were found and so forth. So, and initially that was my main reason for picking anthropology, was because of Bigfoot.
Well, you know, that brings up the question of the controversy over that Patterson-Gimlin film, right. And what it shows or what it doesn't show, you know, and the various analysis that have been done. Have you gotten into looking at that film critically, you know, with your anthropology background and your science background?
Yeah, I saw a second generation copy of the film some years ago, which gives a little bit more detail. Because usually the one you see on TV, it's usually a 20th generation or 8th generation or whatever. You know, you rarely get to see all the details.
So you've seen a second generation version, and it's much clearer, is it?
It's a little bit clearer.
Okay.
Honestly, some of the clearing out that they've done in recent years, this probably does the film a lot more good than the second generation. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot about it that's right from an anthropology standpoint. Like, I know people repeat this all the time. Like, for example, Bigfoot exhibits, first of all, traits that are ape-like traits, but also human-like traits, right? Which, when I was in school, those never went together. Those species didn't exist. We didn't know that was possible. Now, and recently, you know, we've found fossils in Africa of species that coexisted with man that have both very primitive traits and modern traits, such as Homo naledi. Now we know Homo erectus lived till about 100,000 years ago. So now all of a sudden Bigfoot becomes a lot more possible, at least from a standpoint of having this mix of primitive ape and human traits, right? So, for example, when Bigfoot turns, it doesn't move. Its neck goes along with his chest because his head is low on the shoulder, which is a very ape characteristic. The conical head, which is more often reported with the Yeti in the Himalayas, which you have to assume is very similar to Bigfoot, if not the same species, has to do with something called a sagittal crest, which is an attachment for jaw muscles, and usually in primates, it's most has to do with males or bigger specimens like gorillas will have it, and it has to do with their diet because they need more strength in the jaws. the flexible midfoot, right? I found tracks myself that seems to indicate that Bigfoot, the middle of the foot, is pretty flexible. Well, actually, a small portion of humans have that in their foot anatomy.
Really?
Evolutionary throwback to many years ago, where presumably some of our relatives took. Well, initially, it has to do with the ape-human split, where it precedes that. So it's because, as you can see, chim's foot is able to wrap itself around a tree. But presumably, there's a species called Paranthropus, which was one of our earliest relatives that kind of went on their own evolutionary path and presumably went extinct. They had a more flexible foot, and that has to do with the environment that they lived in. If you live in a forested area, there's a lot more debris on the ground. So it's become advantageous to have a foot that's very flexible, so you can step, over the rocks and, tree branches and all that. So for me, those are the things that I look for. Also the so-called, Bigfoot nest that people say they found in the forest, where there's stuff matted on the ground, there's branches and over it. That's also a gorilla trait. But on the other hand, you listen to some of the vocalization that people have recorded, that sounds a lot more in the human range, because it almost sounds like, I don't want to say a language, but there's definitely a little more of a pattern to it that obviously, apes can't exhibit. So those are the things that personally I look at.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, Ron Moorhead.
I know him.
Yeah, you know Ron. He's out here in the Olympic Peninsula where he lives, and he's recorded those Sierra sounds, that supposedly have been analyzed, and some kind of a potential language is being studied in that regard. Right. So fascinating, and I like the nickname that they call that, the samurai chatter, they call it, just because it's kind of sounds like that kind of a vocalization. But there's definitely, from what I remember hearing, there was definitely a female version and a male version in the same recording, kind of like talking to one another. That's fascinating to me, to think that there could be a language there.
Yeah, because that goes way beyond, talking about apes at that point. That's a very hominin and human, trait. So, but it definitely seems to be a language of some sort. Maybe not in terms of syntax and all that like we have, but in terms of, it seems to definitely be communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
With instructions and, and so forth. So.
Well, I don't know if you've gone this far at all with your hypothesis or theories, but Ron Moorhead is now studying the link. He thinks there's some kind of a link between UFOs and Bigfoot. He seems to think that there have been many UFO sightings that have been in close proximity of Bigfoot sightings as well.
Yeah, I don't buy into that personally. I have a problem with that. I think the data is too small for it. Now, whether there's an interest in terms of whatever UFOs are with Bigfoot, there's a lot of maybe. I just think that the problem I have with that, and sorry, Dave Scott, we argue about this all the time with the other host, is that if you look at it from a worldwide perspective, because Bigfoot's not just in North America, right? Yeah. You have to head over to Asia, you have the Yeti, you have the Yeren in China, it's called the Almasti in Russia, the Alma in Mongolia, all seems to exhibit the very same behavior and trait that Bigfoot has here, more or less, with some regional adaptations. It's devoid of all type of, paranormal tales at all. You don't get that at all in that part of the world. It's only in North America.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, I don't know. To me, Bigfoot's a primate. I'm 100% on this. But it's not mutually exclusive with something else going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there's something else on top of that came about later on.
Sure.
And look, people gave me a lot of crap for, being pretty hardcore about the primate thing. But they don't, it doesn't mean I discount everything else necessarily, but I just think that you have to go with what you know and what you can study. And at least I can do that because I have an anthropology degree. That's for my department, so I focus on that. So I don't see, and again, because we have a fossil record of species and bones that are very similar to Bigfoot, I don't see the alien, origin as a possibility. That, again, doesn't mean there isn't a causal link to it, To me, it's the same from a philosophical standpoint. I will fight anybody that doesn't believe in evolution. In fact, it drives me absolutely freaking crazy. It angers me. But, and when we go back to the Mokele Membe thing, I'm in a continual fight with young Earth creationists. I believe the Earth is 6,000 years old. And again, that drives me crazy. But to me, the belief in the original creation and God isn't mutually exclusive with evolution.
Yeah.
You know? But
exactly.
To me, let's go with what you can measure right now and what you know.
Yeah.
Because you need a base and a starting point, and then you can, go from there.
Oh, I agree with you 100% there. Maybe we can get into that at the other side of the hour here. We're going to take our top of the hour break here, and we will be right back with more Spaced Out Sunday in just a moment.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resnick, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
My heads can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am. My heads can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am. My heads can feel good. I'm free.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out, or actually hour number 3. We're getting near to the final hour of Spaced Out Sunday, and I'm your host, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for being with us. Welcome back, everyone, listening in our terrestrial affiliates. WQEE 99.1 in Noonan, Georgia. UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And on the digital side, we are also on Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can always check our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us all a favor, will you? Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot and shopping out at our Spaced Out Radio store. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. And don't forget to check our SOR Newswire and so much more. Okay, so hey, I think I found a topic here that sounds like kind of fires you up a little bit here. The idea that the Earth, some faith-based communities out there believe could be only 6,000 years old as far as their sacred scriptures are concerned. That always bugged the heck out of me as well. The fact that anybody, I think it was one of the popes actually, who did, or something like that, who did a study and tried to go backwards, to Genesis, from Jesus' birth or whatever, and go through the Old Testament and figured out that the Earth supposedly was 6,000 years old. But from your anthropological background, let's talk a little bit about that and what your fossil record is showing and those kinds of things. That's fascinating to me.
Well, I mean, more importantly than that, when I was in school, all we had to go on was the fossil record. And we could measure time by strata, by how deep underground things were. But since then, genetics have taken over. And I always said that fossils suggest evolution, but genetics proves it. because we've been able to go back millions of years now with genetics. And, so I mean, I don't see how anybody in a right mind can think the Earth is 6,000 years. It's like the flat Earth theory for me, And
right.
Yeah, I mean, I lose, when I argue with these guys, I lose all sense of decorum. It just absolutely I have a hot temper to begin with. It just drives me insane.
Yeah.
And in cryptozoology, they have a huge interest in cryptozoology, and that's where, we get in these battles, is because they want to use, whether they deal with Mokere and Membe or Loch Ness, because they want to believe that's a dinosaur for sure, or that Loch Ness is a plesiosaur or whatever, so they can prove that if it's still around today, it means that it coexisted with man, and the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And that's where all the conflicts with me and, and those guys, come about.
Well, okay. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this as well, though, because we've got some gaps in the fossil record, right? We've got some gaps in the whole history of genetics that evolution doesn't really kind of explain. More and more people are starting to think that evolution is definitely got to be revised somehow, as far as that goes. So what's your opinion on those issues of the missing link and the gaps in evolution?
Well, I mean, there's gaps for sure, but from a standpoint of that, if you really think about it, we've only found maybe 15% at most of just a human, relative species that have existed, and if you start, and for some other groups like the apes, for example, we have very few ape fossils, so we can only go back so far. But in that sense, I think, evolution, people used to look at it from a linear standpoint, where one species would give, way to more complex species to more complex species. Well, it doesn't work that way. We found through genetics that going back that there was a bunch of branches going all over the place,
Yeah.
And then, and the same genetics that you use to see who your uncle was, and, if you were, related to the Queen of England or whatever, back in 1654, is essentially the same science that you can use now to go back further and further and further. And there's markers in your genes and your chromosomes that say, well, they're present here, they're present in the African population, they're present, for example, Denisovans, which is one of the most recent discoveries, right? No one knew they existed. They didn't when I was in college. Well, some of their genes have been passed on to the population in Asia, for example, or in populations that live in high plateaus like in Tibet and Nepal, and that's why they're able to withstand, living in higher altitude. So we're able to trace that, and that's, to me, what proves it. It's a lot more important to me than the fossil record, which absolutely, it's incomplete, but a fossil is so rare to begin with, So,
well, yeah, that's true.
So you can look at it this way. The fossils are kind of markers, right? One fossil marks 100,000 years ago or whatever. And, even though now we have a lot of those, and the genetics is the link between them. And that's where, the field has really evolved, where it's that link in between that it's become really important. And I'm no expert on that either, because that came, after my, my schooling and all that, but I try to follow up. And I think there's no way anyone can deny evolution at this point. I just don't see it.
Yeah. No, I don't deny it at all, for sure. But what I am worrying about, what I'm thinking about, I'm thinking that evolution, the natural evolution of the hominids on the planet, to get to Homo sapiens sapiens, who are, modern man, basically, at this point, I think it seems to me that it was tweaked to accelerate evolution at one point. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, something happened somewhere in that 300,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, where there was an acceleration of just mammoth proportions. And in fact, from a genetic standpoint, right now our species dates back to 300,000 years ago. And that's pretty recent. It's not too long ago, it was only 100,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And so 300,000 years ago, for example, in Africa and then on to Asia, there's multiple species like Susaurus, Homo erectus, Homo naledi, and eventually you had, the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. But all of a sudden, Homo sapiens showed up, and we changed pretty drastically, pretty quickly.
Yeah,
and that's a strong debate, So obviously that's where the alien hypothesis come in for some people, that it kind of means interference.
Yeah.
Or people tell me there's a divine interference. And again, none of that is mutually exclusive. So
I agree.
But I agree with you. Something happened, whether it turns out to be something paranormal, divine, alien, something happened within that time period that accelerated, the evolution towards what we are today.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you agree that there's something strange going on there, because I just always I've heard of it this way. This is an analogy I heard. I don't know if it's anywhere close to it, but I heard that if you took the time frame that hominids have appeared on the planet, and you put it in the space of a 100-yard football field, let's just say, just arbitrarily, you're going to take a 100-yard football field for, the old fossils of, like you said, Denisovian or whatever you want to call them, hominids on the planet, Lucy or whatever, and Olduvai Gorge and that kind of stuff. And then you plotted that against when Homo sapiens sapiens appeared on the planet as well. Someone told me that it was the Homo sapiens sapiens would have showed up at the last quarter inch of that 100 yards football field. In other words, relatively shortly compared to the normal evolutionary process on the planet. And I don't know if that's accurate at all, but it just showed me that, there's, and then, of course, there was always the thing that, the whole out of Africa seems to fly in the face the fact that Neanderthals were in Europe when the out of Africa group showed up in Europe. They were already there, from what I gather. I don't know if you've heard that or have any opinion on that.
Well, there's a different migrations out of Africa. There's an original migration. Well, there's probably been several, but there's one that preceded Neanderthals.
Okay.
And then there's another one that... So the original migration out of Africa presumably would have been something like Homo erectus, which showed up about, let's say, 3 million years ago, right? Which was... Neanderthals are pretty recent, appearing only about 800,000 years ago or so. So they precede Neanderthals no matter what. The second migration, which is the Homo sapien migration, would have happened within the last 300,000 years ago. And Neanderthals already existed by then. But now, they found actually a Neanderthal DNA in Africa recently.
I heard that. I heard that.
Yeah.
Tell us.
That changes things. I think it's too early to really say what that means,
Yeah.
But like I said, we have to stop looking at it from a linear standpoint. There's just a bunch of branches going all over the place, and everybody was interbreeding left and right. It was like, Studio 54 up in Africa back in those days. It's orgies left and right. So, different groups left, came back, and which is why we have, Neanderthal DNA in us. At least if you're European, you can have up to 4%,
Yeah.
So and again, it's not like we have all the answers, but the model is pretty solid in terms of what happened. And like I've always said, I will fight anybody violently if I have to defend evolution. And I think people don't understand sometimes. It doesn't mean I'm not open that something else happened on top of that. But you can't throw away what we know and, what has been demonstrated and what has been proven.
Yeah. Well, then that gets in, and this will be a great subject to discuss with you, the whole idea of giants roaming the planet. What's your opinion in that regard?
I'm fascinated by giants. In fact, especially because people don't realize that at a point in time in Europe, the discussion of giants, after some of the explorers came back from South America, in Patagonia, it was a huge topic of interest in Europe, The question is, how big are we talking about in terms of giants, And I don't know. I'm not sure what the genesis is for giants. I do believe that there's absolutely something to it, because a lot of well-respected explorers said they encountered giants in Patagonia. There's a lot of tales about, skulls and bodies that were found in the American Southwest. I have a little bit of a hypothesis on that, actually. Like, I know some of you may be familiar with the story of the Egyptian city in Arizona near the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Where explorers from the Smithsonian found this cavern, inside the sides of a cliff, and inside they found mummies of giants, red-haired giants. And a lot of people, and they said that, well, some of the writings appear to be Egyptian or Asian. But if you start looking back at the population in Eurasia a few thousand years ago, they're really big people. They had, with red hair. And some of the constructions in that part of the world were on the sides of cliffs, where people were building, caverns, and tons of people were living on the sides of cliffs and mountains in Eurasia. And so that's why I tend to think that giants, at least as far as the American Southwest is concerned, was kind of over-exaggerated. And we're still talking about a Homo sapiens, maybe, in the 7-foot range, maybe, at most. And people were a little bit shorter back in those days. So I think the giants thing got over-exaggerated. In terms of the Patagonian giants, I don't know. Maybe we're talking about the same people. Maybe there is we're missing fossils where there is a group, of related to us that grew a lot bigger and became the giants, And the other thing, too, that intrigued me is if you go back to some of the tales in the American Southwest, there's these tales of the skulls with the double rows of teeth.
Yes.
Right? You've heard that?
Yeah.
And that bugged me for a while. And that kind of, so I did a little bit of research. There's a genetic condition called hyperdontia, which can happen in humans where people get a second row of teeth. It doesn't necessarily have to have a pattern. You can have teeth anywhere. But you get tons of other teeth all over your jaw, And again, there's a genetic marker for that. So I think if we could identify an area of the world where that have that gene, maybe we'd be a step closer to finding out the origin of the giants.
Good point.
Right? And again, there's a lot of speculation there, but...
Yeah. Well, have you ever run across in your studies then these... I don't know if you've seen it. You've probably seen them on the internet. These supposed giant skeletons that were unearthed. And of course, it seems to me that whatever the Smithsonian gets a hold of gets spirited away pretty quickly in that regard.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, I've heard of the anecdotal evidence of skeletons 38 feet tall. The ancient Egyptian gods and some of even the Greek, mythos saying that these people were, 18 feet tall and that kind of thing. It's strange, and even in the Midwest, there's these mounds, the mound builders kind of guys. Supposedly there were major giantal skeletons taken out of those things as well. Sounds like you probably haven't run across any concrete evidence of that yet, though.
No, I've heard the same stories you have. I'm pretty skeptical of it, to be honest, for something that big to be able to exist in our climate and with the way gravity works and all that. It seems a little big to me, a lot of those. And a lot of those are fakes. On the internet, you see a lot of the CGI giants. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I know it's not a sexy answer, but I don't know. And, if I were to guess, I'd probably say, for the most part, a lot of that's crap, to be pretty blunt, but.
And then we've got, actual human beings in modern times, like Andre the Giant, people that are well over 8 feet, not well over, but 8 feet tall, those kinds of folks that seem to be anomalies within our human genome as well. And you wonder how the heck did that is that just an aberration? Is this a gene that can be traceable or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it obviously is an aberration, but there's nothing that says that once upon a time, a few thousand years ago, there weren't entire populations of people that over 8 feet tall. That's entirely possible. You know?
Well, there's the famous story in the Bible about the land of Canaan, being a bunch of giants living there. The Israelites sent out a group of spies to go figure out how they're going to deal with these guys. And they come back and say, we're like grasshoppers to these guys. They're so huge. And of course, that's where this Goliath and his, 3 brothers or 5 brothers, were supposedly all giants as well. But it's fascinating stuff. And of course, that goes back to the Old Testament where supposedly these giants came about because of the sons of God visiting the planet and having sex with the women on the planet and creating giants of old. So, my God, I always say the Bible is one of the most paranormal books on record. You know, if you ever really get into some of the stuff in there, it's fascinating to me. But you never hear about those sermons on Sunday morning, you know, when you go to church.
Yeah, I wish they were. I'd be a lot more interested in going, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
You know, I mean, with all due respect, that's why I've always liked the Old Testament much better. It's a lot more exciting for me.
Oh, man. Exactly. I mean, when I tell people, like, for instance, 1 Samuel talks about the witch of Endor. You know, King Saul asks this witch, to predict to him what's going to happen because these Philistines are showing up and we got to fight the Philistines here. They're sieging, the city. And he goes out and talks to this witch who's a seer, who's a psychic. Right. And she actually brings up from the dead the prophet Samuel, who had passed away before. And Samuel comes up and tells King Saul he's toast. He's in big trouble. You better well forget about it. Anyway, I mean, I'm just saying this is in the Bible here. My gosh. And other sacred scriptures as well. You're talking, Eastern religions and all sorts of stuff. It's much more exciting when you read the real stuff that's going on, even in the Essenes, back in, before the Old Testament and those kinds of things. Fascinating stuff. The Gnostics even.
Well, if you look around the world, not just the stuff that was excluded from the Bible, but some of the other religions, some of the other ancient scripture or, writings, it's all pretty similar. There's a lot of common themes,
Well, it is. It's the gods that came down from the sky.
Everybody's got that.
That taught the people how to live, right? They gave them Hammurabi's code. They gave them like rules to live by, the 10 Commandments. And, all of a sudden, society takes off like from Sumer out of nowhere. All of a sudden we've got, society that only had maybe, people who are just, hunter-gatherers, moving from place to place became a society immediately at a short period of time. So all that stuff's fascinating to me. I'm hoping that at one point we're going to be able to figure out time travel and be able to go back and really figure this out, what it really happened,
Yeah. And, again, it's always been my point where I think we have a tendency to separate science and the paranormal and some of the stuff that we deal with. And I really wish things would, I think that things go together. It's just a matter of figuring out how they fit together, where, how the puzzle fits together. It's just, I hate the separation between, obviously I have an anthropology degree and psychology degree, and I'm very, very pro-science. I mean, to a point of a fall where I'm pretty biased. I'll be, first to admit. This whole anti-science thing that's happening in the United States, it just drives, again, it's one of those things that drives me crazy. But it doesn't mean other things aren't true. On top of that, it's just, I don't understand this either or mentality that we're in.
Yeah.
So often,
Well, and then we get that whole thing of, quantum science, quantum mechanics, non-locality stuff going on. The two slits experiments. The observer makes some kind of a difference, in the whole outcome. So that is going to be fascinating when we figure out how consciousness figures into science, I think.
I think it's a big part of it. I mean, I've always been a big believer that you cannot separate the event from the observer, even at a macro level, I know they've proven it at a micro level, but I think it's true as well on the macro level, and that's where all the psychic stuff and poltergeist and, and parapsychology comes in, I think. Unfortunately, there was still funding for it.
Yeah, there you go. Trying to get make a living out of studying that real stuff like that is tough, I would imagine.
Good luck, let me tell you.
Okay, well, gee, I tell you what, we are just moving right along. We've got one last segment to go here, Alex. We're going to take our break at the bottom of the hour, and then we're going to come back and wrap things up here on Spaced Out Sunday. So hang on, and we'll be right back.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
And we are back, Spaced Out Sunday with Alex Mistretti. Oh boy, this is fun. Boy, during the break here, Alex, it just occurred to me, this would be a perfect opportunity for me to ask you, what is your opinion about these elongated skull artifacts that we're seeing in certain areas of the planet that seem to show some kind of a hominid that might be a hybrid of some kind?
Yeah, I'm on the fence, because I obviously haven't had, as an anthropologist student, I've seen some of those, and those were clearly, Homo sapien. So I think sometimes that gets overplayed a little bit, but there's definitely some intriguing aspects to them. I think ultimately genetics will tell the story with that. I think it's worthwhile pursuing. I'll put it that way. But for right now, what's also interesting, and I don't think doesn't get talked about enough, it's not just the fact that they're elongated skulls, is that so many cultures preferred or elevated that look to something royal and something that's obviously very important, almost spiritual. And I think there's an angle there that's important and that we're missing, because it's not just one culture in one little corner of South America. Most of you think of it as in Peru, but it's not. It's other cultures as well. And I think, ultimately, genetics, at least we have something concrete there that we can study. And all I can say is I think it's worthwhile pursuing.
That is an excellent point. Rather than just hanging everything on the fact that this might be, something done by humans to emulate something, right, rather than finding out of a genetic difference at all. But why would they do that? I mean, that's the exact problem, is that, well, maybe there were some kind of entities on the planet that looked like that or had that kind of a trait that they wanted to emulate.
Well, 2 points on that from that. Something it could be like a cargo cult.
Yeah.
Where you want to emulate something that you're seeing, right? And the second part of that too is if you look at most, so-called primitive culture, or ancient cultures, everything that they do is about the gods. It's about, sometimes the beings that come down from the sky, depending on, on their mythology, so to speak. But everything is to emulate somebody else that comes down, to help them. So from that standpoint, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And it seems to be that was not just a short period of time in some cultures. It seemed like it went on generation after generation for some reason as well. So, and then of course there's always the genetic studies that they're doing on like the Tutankhamun, mummies. The whole idea that potentially there's some blue blood kind of lineage there that's being promoted as well in some of these rulers of the ancient Egypt and Samaria as well, having something to do that's special other than your normal individual.
Right.
You know, all that inbreeding amongst the power elite as well. Yeah.
The thing is, if we're going to find proof of all that, those are, well, first of all, there's been a lot of hoaxes, as we all know, from the Jaime Moussans of the world. There's been a plethora of hoaxes in that department. But it doesn't mean that the concept is invalid nonetheless. We just haven't found it yet. It's still, I think, focusing on a region like Egypt, obviously, ancient Iraq, that whole area, and South America, to me, is still a valid source of study. It's still something that we should pursue. It's not because there's so many hoaxes and it seems outlandish and we haven't found it yet. I think it's something that's worthwhile to look into. But for something like that, because it has possibility from a genetic standpoint and from a hard evidence standpoint, we can't accept anything less but that hard evidence. Otherwise, we're just speculating.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really do anybody any good at this point. It's too easy.
Right. Matter of fact, you probably are up to speed, or at least know the research that Lloyd Pye has done, both on two issues. He got into the Bigfoot thing, the Patty Gimlin film and stuff, and also the Star Child skull. Two issues that I remember he was quite interested in. What do you think his analysis of both of those, or one of those, if it's a favorite of yours to talk about? Because I always thought he was, he wasn't a scientist, but he was getting quite down to that level anyway, in talking about those things.
Well, I knew Lloyd, for the record, so we had this conversation before, and I actually got to examine the skull firsthand myself.
Wow.
And so initially I was pretty impressed with it and the thing that impressed me the most is we were talking about the foramen magnum, which is the hole at the base of the skull. This is where your spine goes through. And in humans, it's pretty far forward. For example, in apes, because they're partly quadrupedal, it's a little bit further back. And on that skull, it appears to be a little bit more forward. So it's almost like we're looking at a human from the future. But however, they've done genetic tests since then on the skull, and it turns out to be 100% human. So I have to go with what the test says, at least for now. If the genetics says it's human,
Yeah.
Again, doesn't mean that a concept is not worthwhile to study, and there isn't that skull that's out there, because there probably is,
Yeah.
And in terms of, so we talked about his Bigfoot hypothesis and all the other hominins in the world, and he had a pretty good handle on it. The only thing I didn't agree with him on is that he thought he compared the eyes of the skull, which seemed to be pretty big. So he thought that the eyes of ancient hominids were also that big, that nocturnal vision. That turned out not to be true, But everything else, he did some pretty solid work for, a non-scientist, so... But with the Star Child, skull, I have to go with that it's human.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And believe me, I didn't want it to be,
Very interesting. But what you're saying is you kind of trust whatever the analysis was done to determine it was human. Because, you hear all sorts of horror stories out there of, the tests that have been done and secreted, and you don't really get to know the truth, So, well, it's good to hear that from you, that you've gone through both of those iterations with both of those issues of the Patty hominid and the Star Child as well. That just goes to show you how well versatile you really are in this whole field of the paranormal. This has been fun for me to get to pick your brain.
Well, I spent a lot of time on this. I don't date much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh man, I was married for 30 years, and trying to do some of this stuff on my own or on the side, but not married now. And I tell you what, I'm having the time of my life, not having to deal with a relationship, like that again. I mean, it's nice, but. Yeah, you look back and you go, gosh, there was a lot of things you had to do back in the old days, to survive and make a living and take care of your family as well. So, what's your latest thing now that you're working on that we need to know about?
Nothing right now, honestly. I mean, with the quarantine and all that, everything kind of a little bit in the standstill. You know, we had a couple potential haunting shows that, you know, we're calling type of deal that I was hoping to get going because I need the money, if I'm going to be honest. But right now, actually, we're looking to go to Vancouver when this whole thing blows over and we're allowed out again, you know?
Yeah.
We're looking to go to Vancouver Island in the spring.
Oh, that would be fun.
They invited Dave Scott is invited.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
You know, a couple of my guys that I've done Bigfoot expedition with before, so I've been wanting to go there for a while. So that would be kind of like the party trip after if we're all still alive.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. Vancouver Island is just the hotbed of Bigfoot activity, supposedly, obviously. And there's the Olympic project on the Olympic Peninsula out there as well, that those guys are heavily into that whole cryptid thing on there. That would be fun to look forward to when you get a chance to get out and about. And, hey, I mean, have you heard this meme out there on the internet? I thought it was hilarious. The Bigfoot is the ultimate social distancing, you know, creature that you can't get close to Bigfoot anyway. So, you know, why not?
You have no idea how many people have sent me that.
I'll bet. No, Bigfoot is really taken off as far as, you know, the popularity, the history, the memes, you know, on the internet, especially with the COVID thing and the Bigfoot wearing a mask, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Funny stuff. Oh my! Well, listen. At this point in the interview, I always like to ask my guests the things that we haven't talked about that you would like to be able to get out that we haven't touched on yet. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you?
I don't know. I mean, stuff I can kind of tell you the stuff that some of the plans, things that the expeditions I want to go to.
Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah, tell us.
You know, some of the things that people don't talk about enough. For example, I mentioned briefly the Mongolian death worm.
Yeah, tell us what the heck that is.
So in Mongolia, there's sightings and reports of this, for lack of a better word, a worm. I'm not sure it's a worm to be honest with you. That obviously lives underground, and during the rainy season, it comes out, and it's about the size of a man's arm, a little bit much thicker. And it spits venom or electricity, depending on who you talk to.
Whoa.
I think it's probably more like venom. You know, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's an arthropod, more related to centipedes and millipedes than an actual worm. But we have some pretty good information on it. We know it comes out after rainy season. So that would be June and July in Mongolia. Supposedly it likes the Goya plant, which is one of the fruits, one of the plants that lives on the ground. And I always thought that this animal has a pretty high chance of existing, you know? And for whatever reason, it's kind of grabbed my attention.
Well, yeah, something called a death worm would, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, is this a worm that literally can kill people or just its prey or what?
It can kill people. It's been reported I've killed horses, you know, camels, that sort of thing, and that the venom is that strong. But, you know, and I think it could be a reptile. And it's hard for me to picture worms surviving in a desert. You know, during the hot weather. So, and as far as we know, we don't have worms actually. You know, they're venomous. So, but we have centipedes and millipedes, right? That are venomous. So I think it might be more related to arthropods, or quite possibly a reptile. You know, that's another possibility.
Yeah.
But the other thing I've always been interested in, actually, that part of the world actually fascinates me also from a Bigfoot standpoint. Mongolia. Through the Caucasus Mountains. For those who are not familiar, there's a Bigfoot there's called the Almasty. And it has even a richer history in that region than it does in North America. And except that a lot of the wilderness areas in that, there's a lot of wilderness, don't get me wrong, but there's not as much trees. It's a little bit more accessible than North America is. And I always thought that if we're going to lead an expedition, that would be one of my prime spots, you know? The other big project we're going to talk about is something called X. So in 1980, an anthropologist, a French anthropologist, pretty well renowned. I mean, her books are in schools, universities, and all that. Was doing her field work. Her name is Jacqueline Eberhardt. She was doing her field work in Kenya, and she started hearing these stories about this Bigfoot type creatures out in the woods, but a little more graceful, a little more man-like, but still covered in fur, not able to speak, that sort of thing. And as an anthropologist, she was kind of intrigued by that possibility, you know. And so she did some studies. She never managed to see one, but they found some artifacts, meaning that they found a bow and an arrow. So supposedly this species was able to have a culture and have a bow and arrow, even though they didn't possess the ability to speak. And so it's called X, and it's a literally ubiquitous term in that part of the world. So it also applies to more Bigfoot type creatures, but also lost tribes. So what X really is somewhere in between, probably. But the fact that a real anthropologist found, you know, some artifacts in 1980 is something I've always wanted to follow up on, and it's a story really very few people ever really know about.
Oh, that's
a huge project for me, you know.
And this was something that she wrote up in a report or something that...
She wrote a book that was never translated in English. I speak French, so I have the book in French.
Ah,
yeah.
Wonderful.
And, yeah, there's pictures of the arrows. And it's interesting because if you compare the arrows to other arrow technology in the region, it's a lot more primitive. It almost looks like it's from the Stone Age.
Okay.
So it's almost like we have a very primitive tribe, you know, with very primitive attributes that managed to survive in, you know, that part of the world. I think that's such a huge story because we're talking about an area where essentially man was born, you know, modern Homo sapien, and it was also an area where 100,000 years ago, multiple human species, some more primitive than others, were running all around together, interbreeding and all that.
Yeah.
It's actually the possibility there's a relic population, or at least maybe the genes that get passed on. Maybe it's a vestigial, you know, genes that it's a fascinating concept. So for me, that's probably one of my top 5, you know, projects I've always wanted to get to if we can find, you know, some funding, which I almost did last year.
Oh, really? Gosh, another close call, huh?
Well, yeah. Actually, I've never talked about this publicly. I might as well now because I've been pretty candid today. But somebody approached me that used to work for the NSA, and that's been interested in various, you know, topics. But that person was most interested in Bigfoot today, but wanted to expand other areas. And she says she's been looking for somebody to lead a team for years, and she's been following me, and she thought I would be a good guy for it, and, you know, and at least verbally offered me $100,000 a year to lead a team, you know, to get to pick where to go and all that, you know. And obviously, I said yes, and that was one of the areas I was hoping we'd get to eventually. But some people weren't real happy with me coming on board. Some people that were kind of using she had a team already, but they kind of used the money. They didn't use the money where they said they were using the money. Let's put it that way. And, you know, and the whole thing sort of fell apart. But, you know, I think, and that brings up another point. I think that's the future of this field is, I don't want to be mean, but we've proven absolutely incapable of getting answers. Just within whether it's a UFO, the paranormal, or the cryptological community, we suck at it. I mean, you know, we haven't done a whole lot if you really think about it. And so much of that has to do with, well, there's a lot of small minds out there, but it also has to do with the lack of funding, the lack of money. We're not able to generate that kind of money. And the people that make documentaries on these subjects aren't big-time producers a lot of the times. Some of them are very talented. They don't have access to that type of money. So I think we have to go outside, start looking at sponsorship, start attracting, you know, bigger producers and getting some huge budgets and big money, because so many stories are just out there we're sitting on.
Yeah.
That, you know, even from, like, look how many spots around the world where we have tons of UFO activity. The India-Chinese border, Kazakhstan, Brazil. How often do we go down there? Mexico, which is not that far. How often do we actually go down there and run a long-term study or have the money to actually, you know, go to areas where these things are consistent?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's always been my goal, to try to, you know, get something like that going. But
well, you
keep doing it.
You really remind me of that cross between Indiana Jones, you know, and the guy who's really on the boots on the ground kind of guy who also has the, you know, the background scholastically as well. I can see, you know, you in the in the classroom, you know, being the college professor type, and then all of a sudden you get some call, you know, off to the side. You say, oh, hey, by the way, we got the funding. You know, we're sending you to Madagascar tomorrow, right? And all of a sudden you're thrown in with a bunch of interesting characters that you're going to have to manage out in the field to really get some science done. I'm holding my breath for you here. That sounds like a lot of fun.
You just described my fantasy.
Yeah.
Might it's a Charlize Theron thing, but that's
all right. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. My gosh, 100,000 a year. That would be pretty good salary. You could live off of that.
I was pretty stoked. I thought this was finally going to happen because, and I know this pisses a lot of people off, but I've been a big believer that researchers should be getting paid. We should have professional UFO researchers, professional cryptozoologists, not because I want to go out and partying, with the whores and cocaine and all that, but I mean, it deserves that kind of attention, and we need that money. It's expensive. Research is expensive, so I've been, I turn down TV shows if I don't get paid. And
yeah,
I hate to do it. I really do, because I have fun doing it and I get to go places. But I think we need to make a stand. And I think if you want to have progress and get real results, we have to start thinking bigger,
Yeah. Well, it's not just entertainment, I mean, that's what a lot of those producers are talking about. They want to entertain. They want to fill up a time slot, and they want to get ratings. They don't want to get the answers that you're looking after and you're looking for. And that's exactly right. You do kind of have to take a stand at one point and say, are you serious about doing this or not? And if you are, you got to put up some funds and some resources here to get this thing done.
Because the problem is we have too many people within our community that don't really want answers either. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
And a lot of people at the top of the food chain right now, they're pretty happy to be where they're at.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and they don't want to let that go. And they don't want answers because then, they might not have the qualifications, to be honest, to really get answers. So, and that's a problem, and
well, and then there's
pain in the ass, but
there's that issue of what I call the golden handshake. The top level tier of any experts in a certain field. Every once in a while they get co-opted, and then they kind of get controlled as controlled opposition or whatever you want to call them. And there's not a lot of motivation for them to really find the truth. They're there to keep a lid on things in some cases. Yeah. And I hate that as well because, there's a whole lot of qualified folks out there that are just as excellent researchers or have just as much brains in their skulls as anybody else, but they don't get that opportunity because they're passing it out to the same folks at the top that basically, are not motivated to get the truth out.
Yeah, there's tons of excellent researchers out there that, some well-knowns are absolutely fantastic, but
yeah,
in all fields, but there's a lot. I mean, it's tough. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but
well, I'm a little encouraged about what Grant Cameron is termed the young guns coming up. Some of these guys that are and gals who are proficient with internet research, digging through the dross, finding out what's really going on. Of course, we always got to keep those guys from infighting with each other as well in the field, like any other field. I don't know what you found, but I find the Bigfoot community being some of the most contentious folks out there as far as one another. But yeah, ufology is the same way. Everybody, there's jealousies and certain things going on all the time. The only thing I can say recently is that this New York Times pending article seems to have kind of pulled the UFO community together more lately in the last few months than I've ever seen it, because literally people are kind of talking and excited, and they're all kind of pitching in, putting their 2 cents worth in before the big, thing drops, if it ever is going to do. I'm really enjoying that. Matter of fact, I wake up typically at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, out here on the West Coast, just to double check my internet to see if the story is dropped yet. I don't know if it's going to be this week or not, but could be interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, there's so much potential in this field. We could do so much good.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to me if I ever have any grandkids to have them look back at one point in their lives, when they're older and in their golden years, thinking, well, yeah, my granddad lived in the golden age, of this whole thing, I think, happening very shortly. I think this is an amazing time to be alive.
It's definitely the most interesting. You know, the Chinese are right. The whole Chinese proverb about interesting times, but definitely for ufology, I don't know where things are going to end up, but it hasn't been boring. You know, and it's funny because I get really frustrated really easily, and usually I take it out on Facebook. But I don't know how often I'm like, man, I'm done with this crap. I'm done. I'm never, I quit. I'm going to retire, especially in ufology more than the paranormal or cryptozoology. And then I look around, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Ooh.
Right.
And I can't do it. It's like, I can't let it go.
Yeah. Well, I hope you never do, because we're going to need your expertise to help get the truth out there. But even afterwards, that whole transition is going to be a major thing that a lot of people have to get over. And scientists and researchers like yourself will be among those, I think, that will help us do that. So, Alex, this has been awesome. Thank you for taking the time with me today for three solid hours. We've been talking about cryptids and UFOs and Bigfoot and anthropology. So I've really learned a lot from you, and I appreciate your appearance on the show tonight.
No, thank you very much for having me on and for letting me talk about the things I want to talk about. Which isn't always the case when you do these shows. So,
exactly. Well, that's what I like. I like to find out what you're interested in, because I know that that's your passion, and that's where the good stuff comes out. So, okay, Alex Mistretti, thank you very much, buddy. People can find you on Amazon, get your book there. Your website, you might want to mention that.
Yeah, it's internationalmanofmysteries.com. That's plural, man of mysteries.
I like it.
I have a lot of my articles on there. So
fantastic. All right, buddy. Well, we're going to have you back at one point. If there's some strange, amazing thing that happens and you need to get the word out, you give me a call anytime.
Appreciate that.
All right, Alex. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Was a man who had some land in eastern Washington, and on his land this man he had a deep dark hole upon. People came from miles around to throw their trash down in to see how deep the hole was and listen for its end. Then one day, that fateful day, they forced Mel off his land. They paid him off and sent him off down under with a plan. They hid Mel's hole and covered it up so ne'er it could be found, so no one would ever know what's deep down in Mel's ground. Yippee-yi-yi. Chance to find yourself in eastern Washington. I want to remind everyone that Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. You can find out more information and music at bumblefoot.com. A special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, and in the chat rooms, wherever you are around the world. Remember, this show is currently copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. We will see you next Sunday on Spaced Out Radio.